Big contracts in sports, they're always a bit of a gamble, aren't they? Especially when they don't quite pan out the way everyone hoped. And today, we're looking at a situation in Dallas where a huge contract is raising some eyebrows.
And some very strong opinions.
Yeah, we're talking about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys.
The Cowboys went all in on Prescott with a 4-year, $240 million extension.
With a crazy $231 million guaranteed.
The richest deal in NFL history.
At the time. Still is, actually.
Right, it still is. And yet, here we are.
Cowboys are stumbling along at 4-7.
Prescott's out for the season with that hamstring injury.
Former head coach Jimmy Johnson, he's not holding back.
Not one bit.
He's basically saying the Cowboys made a mistake.
Offering that extension before Prescott had really proven himself.
Proven he could deliver consistently.
At an elite level.
And Johnson, he's a legend, right?
2 Super Bowls with the Cowboys.
Recently inducted into their Ring of Honor.
Exactly. So when he speaks, people listen.
And he's making a really interesting point about the financial side of things.
Yeah, these mega deals, they can really hamstring a team.
No pun intended.
Right, of course. But seriously, it's about more than just one player's salary.
It impacts the whole team.
Every dollar you spend on one guy is a dollar you can't use to strengthen other areas.
So you're saying that even if Prescott was playing lights out,
which, let's be honest, he wasn't,
this contract could still be a problem.
It has the potential to be a problem, yeah. It limits their flexibility, can't sign free agents as easily, harder to retain other key players.
And ultimately harder to build a well-rounded competitive team.
It's about striking a balance.
Johnson seems to be saying the Cowboys, they tipped the scales too far.
With this massive bet on Prescott.
And it could hurt them in the long run.
Now remember, the NFL has a salary cap.
Right, a limit on how much each team can spend.
So when you dedicate a huge chunk of that cap to one player, it creates this ripple effect across the whole roster.
You might have to let go of good players, make tough choices just to stay under the cap.
Exactly. You might end up with less experienced guys at other positions.
All because you paid top dollar for your star quarterback.
So the question becomes, how much is too much?
It's a tough one. And Johnson, he's been there. He's built a championship team.
He understands these complexities.
And what's really interesting is that earlier this month, even before Prescott's injury,
back when the Cowboys were 4-6,
Johnson expressed doubts about their playoff chances.
He said even with key players coming back from injury, he didn't see them making a deep run.
And so far, he's been right.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So this is a guy who knows what he's talking about.
For sure.
And he's not optimistic about the Cowboys. So where does that leave Dak Prescott? Is Johnson being too harsh?
Well, you have to remember, Prescott is talented. He's shown what he can do.
He can be electrifying.
Absolutely. He's a leader on that team. But can he do it consistently?
Can he live up to that contract?
That's the $240 million question.
Can he elevate the players around him? Lead them to a championship?
Because that's what it's going to take to justify that kind of money.
A lot of pressure.
No doubt about it. And the Cowboys, they're in a tough spot.
They have to build a championship team with this massive contract on the books.
It'll be interesting to see how they navigate this.
They've got some tough decisions ahead.
Absolutely.
We're at a turning point here. Prescott being out gives them a chance to step back.
See what they've got, evaluate the roster.
But that contract looms large.
It'll shape their decisions for years to come.
It's high stakes in Dallas.
High stakes for sure. This whole Prescott situation, it's bigger than just Dallas, you know?
What do you mean?
It's sending ripples throughout the entire league.
Other teams are paying attention.
Absolutely, especially other quarterbacks.
Using it as leverage.
Exactly. Imagine you're a quarterback, you've put up similar numbers to Prescott, maybe even better.
You're going to want that same kind of money.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
You go to your team and say, hey, Prescott got this. I deserve at least that.
So it sets a new standard.
A new benchmark for what top quarterbacks can demand.
Creates a domino effect.
That's exactly it. And that's what has implications for the entire league.
How so?
Think about it. Teams suddenly have to adjust how they manage their salary caps.
Because if they want to keep their star quarterback happy,
they might have to overpay.
Potentially creating an imbalance.
Yeah, you could end up with a handful of quarterbacks making a disproportionate amount of the league's total money.
While other teams are struggling to fill out their rosters.
Exactly. It's a tough situation for everyone involved.
So on one hand, you have the quarterbacks. They want to get paid.
Rightfully so.
On the other hand, you have the teams trying to stay competitive within the salary cap.
It's a balancing act.
And Prescott's contract just threw a wrench in that balance.
It forces teams to ask some really tough questions.
Like, how much is too much for a quarterback?
Are you willing to sacrifice depth at other positions to have that elite quarterback?
Because there's no easy answer.
There really isn't. A franchise quarterback, they can change everything.
They can make the whole team better.
Generate excitement, bring in fans, lead you to a championship.
But can one player, even a quarterback, be worth that much money?
It's a question a lot of people are asking right now.
It's almost a philosophical question.
It is. It really is. It raises questions about the economics of the whole NFL.
Is this sustainable? These massive quarterback contracts?
Or will there be some kind of correction?
Maybe a salary cap adjustment, or teams just start approaching contracts differently?
Those are the things team owners and general managers are thinking about right now.
Trying to find that balance between getting a great quarterback and managing their resources.
It's a high-stakes game.
The NFL is always evolving.
And this situation with Prescott and the Cowboys,
It's like a microcosm of that evolution.
we're seeing the league grapple with these fundamental questions.
About player value, compensation.
The financial side of the game.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It reminds us that even though we focus on the on-field action,
The games themselves,
a lot of the biggest decisions are made in the boardroom.
where the contracts are signed, the money's dealt with.
That's where the real game is played sometimes.
So what do you think happens next? What are the possible scenarios?
Well, the best case scenario for the Cowboys is Prescott comes back next season,
Fully healthy?
plays at an MVP level, leads them to a deep playoff run, maybe even a Super Bowl.
And suddenly that contract looks like a bargain.
Exactly. The critics go quiet. Everyone's praising the Cowboys for their bold move.
But what if it doesn't go that way?
Then things get a lot more complicated. If Prescott struggles, if the Cowboys keep losing,
That contract's going to start to look like a big mistake.
it'll be a burden, a symbol of their struggles.
It's a gamble, high risk, high reward.
The stakes are huge, not just for the Cowboys, but for the entire league.
Because this contract could set a precedent.
That changes how teams do business for years to come.
What I find interesting is how this goes beyond just football.
What do you mean?
It touches on these bigger ideas about economics, human capital.
The balance between individual goals and team success.
It's a story about risk, ambition, the pursuit of excellence.
And the story's not over yet. We're just in the middle of it.
We'll have to see how it all plays out.
Exactly. But for now, let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
Well, it's not all doom and gloom, you know. Not everyone thinks this contract is a disaster.
Really? Really?
Oh, yeah, there are plenty of people out there who think this deal could still work out.
Who are these people? What are they seeing that we're not?
Well, they're looking at Prescott's track record before this season.
Before the injury, before the Cowboys started losing,
Exactly. He's been a consistent performer.
he has had some good years.
More than just good. He's a proven winner, a leader.
But can he get back to that level?
That's the question, isn't it? The people who believe in this contract, they think he can.
They think this season is just a blip.
They argue that one down year, even one with an injury, doesn't erase everything he's accomplished.
So it's a matter of faith.
In a way, yeah. You have to believe that Dak Prescott can bounce back.
And lead the Cowboys to a championship.
Because if he doesn't, that contract is going to be a huge problem.
It'll be hard to justify that kind of money if they're not winning.
Exactly. And the Cowboys, they're all in on Prescott.
They've made their bet.
Now we wait and see how it plays out.
It's going to be fascinating to watch, that's for sure. So how do you think this whole thing will be viewed in the future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will this be seen as a smart move, a bold decision that paid off?
Or will it be a cautionary tale?
A reminder that even the best quarterbacks can't always live up to massive contracts.
We won't know for a while.
It all depends on how the rest of Prescott's career goes.
Every win, every loss, every injury.
It'll all be analyzed through the prism of this contract.
Talk about pressure.
Can you imagine $240 million riding on your shoulders?
The weight of expectations.
The hopes of an entire city, a fan base.
It's a lot to carry.
No doubt about it. And that's what makes this whole situation so compelling.
It's more than just a contract dispute.
It's a story about risk, ambition, the pursuit of greatness.
And we're all watching to see how it ends.
It has been really interesting talking about this. We got into the financial side of the NFL, the pressure on quarterbacks.
And how one big contract can impact an entire league.
It reminds us that professional sports, it's not just about what happens on the field.
It's a business, a competition on multiple levels.
With a lot of money at stake.
And for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, the game is far from over.
Their story is still being written.
We'll be watching to see what happens next. Goodbye and see you in the next video.